the dragon of House Targaryen! What do you want?
It does seem to me that you've made rather a mess here.
Whose side are you on?
The old ways call for justice.
Prince Darren's dragon was taken to Wing. The Hightower host will be unstoppable.
House Targaryen is the blood of the dragon. If any may lay claim to it, what are we then?
With these dragons, peace will be restored.
What's going on, everybody? You're listening to the For Your Consideration podcast. My name is Tyronn. The D is Silent Walker, and we are back with another episode. This time we are reviewing House of the Dragon, the Red Sowing. As you can see, my trusted colleagues and friends are not joining me this week. Tamika just received her Hogwarts acceptance letter, and Danny is off somewhere yelling and screaming and cursing at his laptop. So you're stuck with me, and I'm clearly joking. Just due to health and safety reasons, we decided it would probably be best if we just didn't get each other potentially sick and just record this individually, give our own thoughts and opinions, and then make a compilation video, so to speak. And you also may be wondering, why don't you just hop on Skype, Ty? Why don't you just, record that way? You guys have done it previously that way. Why don't you do it this time? And I would say that is an excellent idea. However, HP decided, fuck you, Ty, and fuck your laptop while you're at it, because the hinges broke on my laptop and it refuses to turn on. So apparently this is a very common thing with HP laptops with the hinges. I went to go flip that thing, and that thing said, no, not today. We are not flipping. We are not turning on for you right now. This is now the second time I've had to get this thing fixed. So when you spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a laptop, for them to cheaply make the hinges, for them to be, basically cutting corners on this high-tech stuff that we have nowadays, it's actually not surprising. I mean, I forget where we live sometimes, like people cut corners all the time. I mean, damn it. I mean, so screw me, right, for not even considering the thought process of like spending hundreds of dollars on a laptop and it for it to be cheaply made. So fuck off, fuck you, HP. This, like I said, this is now the second time I'm having to get this thing fixed, and it's not cheap, man. It's not cheap, So whatever. We are where we are, and I guess in the face of adversity, you got to face adversity. So, that's what I always say. Anyways, just real quick thoughts and opinions on this week's episode. I do have some notes here that I wrote down. So, or I guess I should say type down. So bear with me. Just some real key takeaways from this week's episode. Obviously, we have Adam claiming sea smoke and Rhaenyra confronting him. I think the big question here is, why didn't Adam reveal to Rhaenyra that he was Corlys' son? And I think that's a question that will be revealed maybe next episode, or maybe next season, potentially. I heard somewhere online, and it actually makes sense that they're waiting for it to be like this big reveal instead of like, and I guess in many ways it kind of would have been anticlimactic if he just said it then and there. But maybe there's some ulterior motive of why he didn't reveal it. But I do think they're potentially saving that for a bigger scene between Corlys and Adam, and this emotional climactic scene of them coming together, and then Corlys, because I don't think Corlys has actually even said it out loud, claiming them as sons, and maybe even potentially naming them. Maybe naming one of them, heir to his throne. So we gotta wait and see what happens there. Hugh Hammer and Off the White, off, like kind of like off, but like off with a U. I know these names are crazy. claim Vermithor and Silverwing, respectively. And great scene here. Great scene. I thoroughly enjoyed seeing Vermithor, pretty much do what Sea Smoke did previously, and pretty much eat everybody and smoke everybody and flame out on everybody. I do wonder, like, how are these people just like claiming these dragons? Because in these 3 scenes that we've gotten, it's been pretty much these dragons claiming them. It's like they don't do anything really. They just so happen to be at the right place at the right time. Like specifically off. Like he just stumbles upon Silverwing. Like he was trying to get away from Vermithor, and it just waltzes his way into where Silverwing is like hanging out, and it's really played comedically. But again, it's just like they aren't necessarily doing anything, and I guess it's just the dragon sensing the Targaryen, blood in them, the Targaryen lineage or dragon rider lineage, because Adam isn't technically a Targaryen, he's a Valyrian, and so they aren't necessarily known as being dragon riders, and unless somewhere in his lineage there is there's Targaryen blood, and we haven't been that hasn't been revealed to us yet. So I mean that was sort of my takeaway from that scene. It was just like, oh yeah, this is really cool to see Vermithor just murder everybody and let flames to everybody, but at the same time it was kind of like, is it just like being at the right place at the right time? I mean, Hugh the Hammer, he had some stones on him. I mean, he didn't have many options left, so he's just like, if I'm going to go out, I might as well go out. But, and then, like I said, off just like, he was just stumbling upon them. And I'm just wondering, like, what the entire process is for claiming a dragon, because it just seems like it's not anything special that you necessarily have to do. It's just, you kind of just got to get lucky. You got to get right at, you got to be at the right place at the right time at the right day and say the right things. It's kind of like, when I got my girlfriend, it was just, there are a lot of other options out there. I mean, I just so happened to be at the right place at the right time at the right day, said a little, how do you do? And she was like, yeah, he's cool, he's a cool guy, let me give him a shot. And, she after around found out, Tweedledee D and Totally Dumb. I mean, if you remember, I forget their actual name, so I apologize. But they are Aegon's friends, and they get sent to the wall. Surprisingly, I thought there might be a chance that Aemond would kill them, but he didn't. I guess he was like, what's worse than killing somebody? Sending them to the wall. Which, in theory sounds terrible, but when you think about the reality of there's a war that's coming, it may actually be a great place for them, considering that the White Walkers aren't really White Walking right now. They ain't walking that walk, haha, see what I did there. They ain't about that life yet. So the only thing they really have to worry about is like wildlings out there. So it may actually be one of the safest places for them. So yeah, there you go. Alicent is on this journey to off herself. I think she's contemplating her life, and it's just like, I don't know what my place is at this kingdom. My son practically says I'm no longer needed. Her voice isn't being heard. It carries no weight, and I think this is at an extreme low point for Alicent right now. And it even the way they even shot it, when she's in the river, and you think that maybe she could potentially drown herself, and she's just floating there like a floaty on a freaking what is it, like a river? What are those rides? I don't know. I forget what they're called, but like one of those super soaker rides. Anyways, but I do think it's going to be interesting to see what Alicent's role is like moving forward, because I'm not really sure. Like, I think we're going to potentially see Otto coming back next episode. Daemon is coming, as they alluded to this episode. So it's going to be interesting to see what her role ends up being in this next episodes, because I think maybe Daemon and Otto coming back will reinvigorate her, because clearly she didn't off herself this episode. So there's that. How about Oscar Tully, like flexing his muscles a little bit here, I don't even know how old he is. He looks like he's 10, As Stephen A. say, breath still smelling like Similax. As he says, he's really green to this whole ruling thing. But I think Daemon pretty much underestimated him a little bit. And unfortunately, little Tully here is like, the River Lords, hey, listen, we understand that a deal was made. We're going to honor this deal because we're honorable people. We don't like you. As a matter of fact, we hate you. We hate your guts, but we're honorable men. And so, we pledge loyalty to Rhaenyra. So we're gonna continue to honor that. However, there are some war crimes committed here, bro. And so somebody needs to answer that. And so what's going to happen is you're going to have to kill this guy Willem. I mean, because obviously you're not going to fall in his sword for him for his actions, even though you were the one that told him to do it. No, sir. So you're going to have to take this Dark Sister sword and spill his guts everywhere. And I mean, they didn't really show that, but I mean, it's assumed that he killed him. And so I think Daemon is sort of realizing the cost of ruling, and his actions have consequences. And we see in a very next scene with a dream sequence, another fever dream. This one not nearly as long as some of the other ones that we experienced, and not nearly as weird as some of the other ones that we've gotten so far this season. But we do see Viserys talking about how difficult it is to wear the crown, how he didn't want it. And maybe Daemon is getting a little bit of that now, and like maybe what he thought he wanted, he no longer wants, or maybe he's starting to see that there's a price for that. And maybe, being a king isn't, all cracked up, what he thinks it's going to be. So really interesting. Like I said previously, this isn't in the books anywhere. So I'm really interested to see where they carry this character. And whether or not we get, and it looks like we are going to get a battle scene if you look at the previews for next week. I wonder if it's going to be like shit's going to go down at Harrenhal, because that's sort of like where we've been leading up to these past couple of weeks. So really interested to see what they do with Daemon's character and his arc, and how they sort of bring it to a closure this particular season, and where he ends up. And if we get any more information about Alice, and any more revelations about essentially the hauntings at Harrenhal, because as we alluded to previously in other episodes, Harrenhal is haunted. We know about the weirwood trees and their connection to the Starks and all this. So really interested to see if we get any more new information regarding that. What else we get here? Probably the biggest takeaway is the whole situation with Jace and Rhaenyra, and this whole idea and concept of, hey, listen, you are bringing in lowlifes, for lack of a better term. You are bringing in all these bastards. You are bringing in all these lowborn wannabe Targaryens, with fractions of our blood, who have silver hair like us, but they're like cousins removed, brothers, sisters, aunties, uncles. They're distant relatives of us. And if these people can claim dragons, then what does that mean for us moving forward? That it like, one of the things that makes us special and unique and as highborns is that we're able to claim dragons. We are able to ride dragons. We are dragon riders. That's where our power is generated from. But if more people can claim it, it's no longer special anymore, right? It's kind of like, one of the things that makes NBA players so great, or any professional athlete so great, is because no one else really can do what they do. And we could quibble about how much money they make, but part of that is part of that reason is because they are special. They're special athletes. But if we could all play basketball at the level that LeBron James can play for, then it no longer becomes special. We're no longer unique in that aspect. There's also kind of like, the Incredibles movie, throwback to that movie. 2004. It was a really good movie if you haven't seen it, Incredibles. But if everyone is super, then eventually, like, it's not cool to be a superhero anymore because everyone's a superhero. So that's kind of like the concept here. What happens if one of them turns on them? What happens, if they lay claim and say, I have a legitimate, right to this throne? What happens when Rhaenyra dies? Or if she dies, and Jace is sort of next in line, what's stopping any of them from saying, Jace is a bastard, essentially, because, she had him with Harwin, if I'm mistaken, Harwin Strong. He has black hair and everything. Everyone knows it. So if he is sort of kind of like, questionable to rule, then what's stopping somebody from distant cousin relative from, making a claim to the throne? So I think it's just an interesting concept here, and it's interesting to see how it's all going to play out now that we have multiple dragon seeds or multiple dragon riders. Now, do I think that any of them will actually, make a legitimate turn against Rhaenyra? No, I think they'll all pledge, fealty to her. They'll all, bend the knee, and and off we go to war, and people are gonna die. That's the road that we're on, and I think we're sort of gearing up for this climactic battle that we're going to get next week, and of course the episode ends with with Aemond hopping on Vhagar, and it's like, Silverwing and Ulf is out here flying around King's Landing. I guess I gotta kill this dragon. I mean, he's an enemy, So he hops on Vhagar and goes to hunt him down, and he's like approaching Dragonstone, and then he sees like all these dragons there, and he's just like, I don't want all this smoke, I'm shitting myself right now, literally. Let's peace out, let's live to fight another day. And it ends with Rhaenyra standing there on one of the beaches, and you get all the dragons standing behind her. A very beautiful shot. And that's how the episode ends. So, overall, a very solid episode. I thought maybe more would happen, honestly, because typically when we get these episode 7s, or typically the penultimate episode, usually there's a lot of shit that happens in them. Whereas I feel like this is just another episode of setting up for this big climactic battle that I think we're going to get in episode 8. And so, yeah, again, it's just another well done, solid episode. Some characters, we didn't see. Some storylines, they didn't continue, or they just touched on a little bit. Like we got a little bit of Bela, we got a little bit of Laris, we got a little bit of Aegon, and see what he's up to. So yeah, just small continuations with those characters, and just again, how is it all going to come together for the finale? Where are these characters going to end up? And I still feel like there's probably at least one more character that's going to die. I want to say I think there's probably one more prevalent character that's going to meet their end in the season finale. But there you have it, folks. That is my, I want to say quick thoughts, but I spent like 20 minutes talking about it, so it's not really quick. But those are my thoughts on this past episode. The gang will be all back, and by gang, we're more like a peanut gang, like not an actual gang. Like we're not pew pew. We're like philosopher gangs. We're kind of like the big three. We're like Aristotle, Socrates, and like Plato type thing. Just I might as well just end it now. But just continue to support. Love you guys. Sorry for the inconvenience that we may have caused, but we will be back next week to wrap up everything. Really can't wait to review it. So until next time, film fans.
Hello. What's going on, everybody? I am Tamika, aka Merks, Merks, coming at you on this Tuesday evening on the 30th of July. And I am feeling really strange and uncomfortable because I am not joined by my cohorts, friends, I'd say colleagues, but they're not really my colleagues, I guess. Ty D. Walker and Mr. Danny Fanny, aka Danny Bias, right? Tune into the last episode if you don't get that reference. But feeling really strange because I am not joined by them, and it's a little weird talking to myself into my microphone. But unfortunately, they are not feeling well, so we're not able to all meet up together. But that is not going to stop us from bringing you the latest in our opinions on this latest House of the Dragon episode. Episode 7 was just released on Sunday, this past Sunday. And I think everybody's caught up. So spoiler alert, if you haven't watched it yet, make sure you check it out before you tune into our opinions. Overall, well, first I'll say that while I'm not able to be live with my dear friends, I thought I'd take this opportunity to discuss some questions or overall review of the episode with my husband. And I was like, oh, why don't you join me tonight? And he said, no. So I got turned down twice because my friends decided to get sick. And then because my husband doesn't really love me. No. But in all seriousness, if you're listening to this, make sure you're taking care of yourself because it looks like people are getting sick left and right. So just make sure you're, taking care of your health, take your vitamins, if you believe in such things, lots of, vitamin C, all the things. But yeah, just make sure you're taking care of your health out there because your health comes first. Health should be the priority. So, overall impressions of episode 7. I thought it was a really great episode, really enticing, really engaging. It's interesting because this episode, I feel like in a lot of previous episodes of the season, there were moments where there were kind of feeling like scenes were kind of filler. They were kind of taking it slow, very slow paced. And now it's really starting to build up. Of course, the second to last episode, I think it's the second to last episode, or if not second to last, nearing the end of the episodes, where things are finally ramping up and getting exciting, all for them to be like, we're done this season. So that's a little disappointing. But all that aside, the visuals were gorgeous per usual. We got to see a lot of dragon action. Well, not so much action, but we got to see up close and personal to the dragons. And that was personally one of my favorite things because the visuals I think are gorgeous without looking too fake. On a complete tangent, I'm currently reading the Fourth Wing series by Rebecca Yarros for the first time ever on a recommendation. And that also is all about the dragons, and like dragon bonding and stuff like that. So it was really interesting and exciting to watch the dragon scenes because it would really excite me to see if the Fourth Wing series was brought to screen, either movie or TV at some point. But that's a complete tangent. All that to say that I thought the dragons were really exciting to see. I like, well, something I do like about this season, and I don't know if I remember this from the last season too, but you see a lot of different perspectives, and it's no different from this episode as you're seeing a lot of different perspectives. So overall, really good episode. I don't want to take too much time since Danny, Ty, and I are all kind of filling in our own notes here. Ty was nice enough to provide some questions that I did get a chance to discuss with my husband, even though he doesn't love me enough to join me on the recording. He did discuss the questions with me, so I thought he has some interesting insights. So I'm just going to go ahead and address these questions, a few questions that Ty posed. So first one is, what role do we think Alicent is going to play moving forward, since she was contemplating deleting herself? Now, if it wasn't obvious, it was more, it wasn't very, what's the word I'm looking for? It was suggested that she was trying to delete herself at this point. So she goes into seclusion. She tells the guard, like, I want to leave. I want to go outside. I want to go out. And in being out, you see her riding a horse. The guard asks, like, hey, like, when do you want to come back? When do you think you want to go back? And she's like, I don't think I do. Which is really sad in a way. And I know we've given Alicent a hard time in the past, but thinking of from a perspective of just being a mother of these sons, one who is in extreme agony, and she is probably feeling guilt that she failed him on multiple accounts. One, him being where he is in so much in his injuries and the long time recovery he has. Two, the fact that Aemond is a complete sociopath, and she gets it doesn't appear that she gets a lot of love from him, or even respect or reverence that she deserves for just being his mother in terms of giving birth. And, not saying that she always made the right decisions. Her other son apparently she has to talk to the other son, wherever he is. So she's probably feeling guilt and shame for that. In addition to the fact that she played a major role in the start of this all, in the beginning of the season, which was the death of her grandson. So I just feel like, as much slack, or as much of a hard time as we give Alicent, I think she's carrying a large, very heavy load, and having been rejected so many different times on so many different levels, it does weigh. And even though it wasn't said, there was no point where she said she didn't want to be there anymore. You do see a scene where she's approaching the river and she's kind of undressing, and she enters the water, and it's not explicit. It's more, again, suggestive of her just kind of being at peace and being one with the water. And for a moment I did ask, I'm like, is she trying to like drown herself? Is this it for her? And you kind of see a resolution in her face, in my opinion, of she's laying back and she looks at the sky, and you kind of see the peace fall over her, and a resolution come to her mind. It's like, instead of letting go in that moment, she decides to turn and swim. And I do think, going back to Ty's question, is that it suggests that she is ready to do something. And when I was talking to my husband about it, he even he went as far as to say that she, at this point, could be conspiring to remove Aemond from the throne and maybe return to Alicent's aid, not Alicent, Rhaenyra's aid, in getting her to the throne where she was supposed to be in the first place. And maybe something has finally clicked where she's like, this ain't working. I don't think it's meant to be. Something else has to be done. So that's the part, that's, my 2 cents and my husband's 2 cents, indirectly, is that, she might now start playing a different side. The next question Ty has for us is, why didn't Adam tell Rhaenyra that he is Corlys's bastard? I hope I'm saying that name right. So Adam he looks like the younger son. So he's one of the sons that Corlys Corlys, the black guy. he looks like the younger son of the two that work by the river on the riverboats. So when he bonds this dragon, Rhaenyra, the episode starts with, it jumps right in, and Rhaenyra is like following him and meeting him on her dragon to be like, are you a foe? Or are you an ally? Like, who are you? Like, what do you want? So he is just very, he just looks very excited, I think, as anybody would be, having bonded a dragon. Like, oh my gosh, like I have a dragon. Like, I don't know. I think I'd be really excited. So my first thought is not necessarily going to be why. Well, maybe it would be, but the first thing, or one of the first things he says is like, I just want to help, essentially. It's like, my mission is to serve the queen. And I do think I'm just thinking of this moment, is that this is a breakthrough moment for Adam, because, he made a statement in one of the previous episodes that Corlys, oh gosh, his father never really acknowledges him. He acknowledges the other brother, but he's never acknowledged him or talked to him directly. So I think that plays a major part in just him feeling or lacking a mission. Like, what is a purpose for him? So I think in being able to bond a dragon, I think it's at a really exciting time, because he's like, oh my gosh, I have something I can do. And maybe there's some sense of him that thinks that this will get his father to acknowledge him. So when Rhaenyra asks him about his bloodline, he says, talks about his mother, and I think he mentions that he's not sure of her bloodline because they don't keep the records. That's right. He's basically like, we don't keep records because we're too poor to be able to access that. We don't have the resources to be able to track where we've descended from. So, anyway, so he says that he doesn't know much about his mother, and that, he doesn't know anything about his father. So in that moment, he probably could have said that, Corlys, oh gosh, the sea man who's black, Rhaenyra's husband. Not Rhaenyra's. Oh my gosh, I'm just screwing up all the names. Rhaenys. I'm sleepy. So he could have said like who his father was to kind of should prove his bloodline. Why didn't he? Well, I think a large part of it for me, in my opinion, is that there is no relation. Like, he knows who he is, but he also knows that he's a bastard. So I think at this point, there's not a large call. Rhaenyra hasn't yet said like, oh, we're accepting bastards, or if you're potentially related to this bloodline. So maybe there's part of him is like, there is no relation. I don't have a relationship with this man. So I don't want to make it a topic of conversation, because I don't know how that will impact my chances to help the queen or be bonded to the dragon. So because there's too many unknowns and too many variables in that aspect, he may just find it easier just to, not talk about it at all. And then on the other side, as I was talking to Darius about this, is that perhaps he's waiting for his father to actually be the one to acknowledge him. Maybe he feels like that's not his role, because maybe there's a sense of shame that comes with that. So I don't know why he didn't say it. Maybe he's just trying to find his own, not related to his father at all. And, I'm not too sure of his motives, but those are definitely a couple of potentials. And then the final question that Ty posed to us was, which is more of a statement, but I'm going to pose it as a question, is that Daemon was forced to kill Willem because of Daemon's decisions. And do we think that he's slowly realizing that his decisions may have consequences, and that ruling is actually hard. So I think this is true. The fact that he kind of manifested his brother in a deteriorated state, talking about the crown, is like, do you still want this? Because I mean, essentially, look what it did to me, not just internally, but externally as well. It literally ate him. And I definitely do think that's a major metaphor. And Daemon was kind of looking in that moment like, I don't know anymore. But more than his decision, yes, his decisions have consequences. But when I was discussing this with my husband, he was also saying that up until this point, Daemon he's never had a necessarily hard time getting what he wanted. And I think in a lot of ways, and this is why we've said, I think Aemond and Daemon are a lot alike in that way, is that they are very methodical and very self-serving. And they're willing to do what they need to do to get what they want. So they can be very manipulative, and violent when needed. But I think all that being said, again, he's never necessarily had to deal with no's, and him potentially temporarily separating himself from Rhaenyra, he does finally get a taste of what it means to lead, even if he's forcing it. And I think he's realizing that he actually doesn't know what he's doing, because this has kind of been a common theme throughout this entire season. From the very first episode, is he attempts to be a bulldozer. He tries to force what he wants. He tries to be manipulative and demanding and try to, take control, and like, I'm going to control the situation. We're going to do this my way. And especially even with going to Harrenhal, he soon learns like, actually, we don't do that over here. We do it like this. And what I really liked about this episode is that this young kid came in, and I'm pretty sure David thought like, oh, he's easily controlled and manipulated. I can use him as a puppet to get what I want from the River Lords or whoever they are. And this kid straight up came in and was like, actually, I may be young, but I'm not stupid. And you're going to have to get our trust and to get our backing, you're going to have to prove yourself as well. So all that to say is that I feel like Daemon he's not able to get what he wants by his usual means and his usual methods. And I think more than anything else, I do think he's feeling guilty. I do feel like it's eating at him, especially at Harrenhal. I do think he's being haunted by his decisions, but I also think it is a humbling moment and a humbling opportunity, because he is being told no on various occasions. It's like, oh, wait, I thought that was going to work. Wait, what do you mean that even like 2 episodes ago when he tried to force something with his dragon and the guy literally turned his back on him and rode away, like the dragon couldn't like incinerate him in that moment. And Daemon's like, wait, you told me no? Like, so I definitely think it's a learning experience. So maybe this will humble him a little bit to where he is a little bit more submissive when it comes to Rhaenyra's reign and knowing what it means to actually be in leadership and to actually rule. Because as much as he has tried to push himself into those positions, he hasn't never actually done it. I mean, to the point of the season as well, is that Rhaenyra has been not covering him up, but kind of cleaning up his messes in a way. It's like he thinks he's leading, but really he's just making a mess. And now here Rhaenyra comes and has to, clean it up for him. So, I don't know. I definitely do think that he's starting to see the consequences of his actions, but more so than that, I think he's just learning that he doesn't have what it takes. And there was a legitimate reason why he was never put into the place that he wanted to be and his brother was, and everybody saw it except him. So, but those are my thoughts on Ty's questions, and indirectly, I shared some of my husband's thoughts as well. But if you are listening to this episode, please feel free to let us know what you think. I'm really sad to be nearing the end, especially because it took us literally 2 years to get to this season. So I guess Micah will be going on 4 if there is a 3rd season. But either way, something to look forward to, God willing. So anyway, thanks for taking the time to listen to us. Again, we appreciate our listeners because we're going to have these talks regardless, and we want to share our thoughts with everybody else. So y'all stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see y'all or talk to y'all next episode. Bye.